So we're looking at the topic, explaining world events. That's a new series we have begun. We're in our second lecture. And we're going to be looking at this series in the context, viewed in the context of history and Bible prophecy. So we said the basis of our study is based on a statement found in the book of Education, page 179, the fifth paragraph, where it says, "The present is a time of overwhelming interest to all living. Rulers and statesmen, men who occupy positions of trust and authority, thinking men and women of all classes, have their attention fixed upon events taking place about us. They are watching the strained, restless relations that exist among the nations. They observe the intensity that is taking possession of every earthly element, and they recognize that something great and decisive is about to take place, that the world is on the verge of a stupendous crisis." So world events. So trying to explain world events. Explaining world events. And we found that in Review and Herald, November 8, 1891, that a statement is placed, that is made, that brings our nation into perspective, the United States of America. And it says here, "The prosperity of a nation is dependent upon the virtue and intelligence of its citizens. To secure these blessings, habits of strict temperance are indispensable. The history of ancient kingdoms is replete with lessons of warning for us. Luxury, self-indulgence, and dissipation prepare the way for their downfall." So we are said we need to look at ancient kingdoms, study their history, because there's a lesson for us to learn in that process. It remains to be seen whether our own republic, so not only US is brought into view, but our governmental system, being a republic, is brought into view. It remains to be seen whether our own republic will be admonished by their example and avoid their fate. So she's clearly saying here, in looking at prophetic occurrences, we need to understand in the light of past world kingdoms. And as it relates to the issue of America being a republic government, study previous kingdoms and see how they feared. Are we on a destiny to fear as they fear? Or is there a changing course? That's going to be our discussion this evening. So we're going to look at quick revision of what we did this morning. It won't be very long because some persons weren't here this morning and we have to have a basis for our discussion. We discussed in Daniel chapter 7 that there were 4 world kingdoms: Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. I would say Rome itself had 4 stages. There's the Roman kingdom, the Roman Republic, the Roman Empire, and the fall of the Roman Empire. This morning we looked at the government of ancient Rome. That we say was based on a republic, a republican system. Not republican in terms of the politics, but republican meaning the power is with the people. And we said a republic is a form of government in which citizens have the power to elect their leaders. And this was the structure. It was a tripartite structure. Here's the tripartite. 1, 2, 3. There was the consuls, 2 of them. They had veto power for each other. There was the senators, and there were the tribunes. And of course, there was another level called the citizen assembly. Within this whole framework, you had 3 important aspects of the government. You had the legislative branch that made the laws, the executive branch that executed the laws, and the judicial branch that what? Interpreted the laws. We learned likewise that Republican system councils, the Senate had patricians, or these were the more upper class. The tribunes were the plebeians or the lower class. The system allowed rapid military expansion, and then a system of a constitution that was etched out on 12 tables. And those constitutions protected the people from the government. We also learned this morning that this system here, the consuls were king-like, in quotation. One led the government, the other led the army, and they could veto each other's decision. This was a tripartite system seen in the Roman Republic. And then we did a this is a summary slide of what we studied this morning for over an hour. Our summary slide is saying this. The top here that's not showing so clearly says the rise and fall of the Roman Republic. That's what the top is saying. And the rise of the Roman Republic, we said, was in 509 BC. There was a tripartite government, system of checks and balances with 12 tables with laws, so-called constitution. And this system of government lasted for several hundred years until a turning point came when a war on terror was declared in 68 BC, when the Roman port of Ostia was set on fire by so-called pirates, or if you could say terrorists. All right? And Pompey's opponents were called into submission, and 2 laws were passed that was integral to undermine the Roman Republican system. And that was the Lex Gabinia and the Lex Manila. The Lex Gabinia gave Pompey power to execute war at a certain geographic area, the entire Mediterranean and 50 miles inland. And the Lex Manila gave him ability to initiate war and also initiate peace if he so choose. So the power was in how many persons? 1 man. And we saw that, followed after that, was the fall of the Republic and the rise of the empire. By 49 BC, Julius Caesar broke Roman law that forbade the legions from crossing the Rubicon into Italy proper. We discussed that. There was a law that says no standing army must enter into Italy proper. Why is that? The law forbade the military to police the citizens of Rome. Important point. The law forbade the military to police the citizens of Rome. So when Julius Caesar with his army marched across the Rubicon, in essence, they were declaring war. And there was indeed a civil war, and Julius Caesar came out winning, and he was established as a constitutional dictator, which their constitution did recognize, but he was in effect a dictator for life. And that we saw was the making of the fall of the Republic when the Rubicon was crossed. And then we saw a transition now into the empire phase. By 27 BC, the rise of the Roman Empire with Emperor Augustus Caesar, that is Julius Caesar's nephew, and what followed was a succession of imperial Roman emperors. Then we saw that in AD 313, Constantine passed the Edict of Milan. And in this edict, it was an edict that brought about tolerance to the churches, to all churches. And there was a subtle, if not overt, encouragement for churches to be what? Incorporated, to become state entity to a certain extent for the purpose of receiving certain favors and benefit from the state. Then we saw that what followed in 321 AD was national civil law passed by Emperor Constantine, which we saw had 4 phases. And the end result was the last phase, which resulted in what? A death decree. And we saw that Seventh-day Sabbath-keeping Christians were persecuted. And we saw in the last phase a principle: national apostasy leads to national ruin. And we saw that by 476 AD commenced the fall of the Roman Empire. Starting in the Western Roman Empire, that Revelation chapter 8 and 9 gives in great detail. And the Roman Empire was absorbed into the 10 kingdoms of Europe. And in the process of doing that, we saw that one little horn rose amongst the 10 and ripped out by its root 3 of these kingdoms: the Vandals, the Ostrogoths, and the Arelai. And thus rose to prominence by AD 538, the papacy. And the papacy had a long rule of dominance of 1,260 years. So what we have described here is the rise and fall of the Roman Republic. Now, we asked the question when we concluded this morning, was, are we Rome? And we're going to spend some time and answer that. But I'm going to do something very interesting this evening. As I tend to do in the series I've done at this church and many other churches, whenever we're starting a discussion, I tend to want to establish the principle in terms of how we're going to do the discussion. Sometimes I use comparison, sometimes I use typology. You guys have seen that many times, right? So I'm not going to say nothing new. I'm going to do something very interesting approach this afternoon, which is God. Something that Jesus Christ spoke about. Let me set the backdrop. So I've been studying this topic for well over 10 years. And I can't find any Seventh-day Adventists writing about this, apart from some of our pioneers. A very few, and the Spirit of Prophecy have a sprinkling of discussion, as I showed you earlier. I found that very interesting. And then I found this principle in the Bible that brought everything to my senses afterwards. This is what Jesus Christ says. And some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto him, Master, rebuke thy disciples. And he answered and said unto them, I tell you that, if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out. It's a fascinating statement that Jesus Christ made. What was Christ saying? So here was Christ teaching the people, and amongst them were Gentiles, Pharisees, and Israelites. Are you following me so far? And Christ was saying something to them. So the people were making an adoration of Christ quite appropriately. And the Pharisee says, Master, rebuke your disciples. And Christ said something very profound. If these disciples of mine don't speak, who's going to speak? The stone will immediately cry out. You guys got it? Let's apply it now in a spiritual sense. If the Pharisees of this church, or any church, says to the disciples, keep quiet, and disciples hold their peace, who is going to speak? The stones. Who are the stones? The Gentiles. Who are the Gentiles now? In the context of our discussion? Non-Christians. You guys got that principle? Some of you guys look shocked. You guys don't quite swallow that one as yet. So let me go one more time. Christ is saying something quite profound. And some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto him, Master, rebuke your disciples. Because disciples were what? Proclaiming Christ. Yeah. Follow me. Christ in turn said to them, and he answered and said unto them, I tell you that, if these should hold their peace. What are these? Disciples. Then who's going to speak? The stones will be able to cry out. No. Why did he use the word stones? Because the Jews call the Gentiles what? Stones. That was how well established in the Jews called the Gentiles. And there was Jews and Gentiles in the midst. And Christ was saying to them, if my disciples who are Israelites don't speak, who is going to speak? The stones. The Gentiles amongst you. You guys still don't get that yet? Yeah. It is correct. Go to the Spirit of Prophecy without me and check and see what I'm saying if it's not so. It's absolutely correct. So there's a principle here, friends. Here's a principle. When the people of God don't speak, who is going to speak? The stone's going to speak. So we're going to do something very interesting this evening. We're going to let the stone speak. And then we need to ask ourselves the question, why are we not speaking? If I look in verse Solomon, and this is exactly the mood I want. We're going to be hearing from non-Christians. And let's see how much insight they have over what we have regarding the issues. And then it's going to make sense to you after a while. But this is a biblical principle. This is the Bible. This is not my. This is the Bible I'm quoting. Luke 19:39-40. And you want to check it out. The Jews did call the Gentiles stones. Christ was saying to them, if you, the people of God, don't speak, who is going to speak? The stones. Are you understand the concept now? If the people of God choose not to speak, the stones will speak. So we're going to delve into that, and we're going to hear the stones speaking. And that's going to make total sense to you. But bear in mind, as I said to you before, as we go through, it's going to be revealed more and more. Let's get into it in more detail. So we're going to read Revelation 13:11-18. Let's turn our Bible here quickly to form the basis of our study. We're going to read through it once, and then we're going to break it down as in terms of the relevant areas. Please, take your Bibles out. We're going to get going. We have a lot to talk about this evening. Revelation 13, verse 11-18 says, And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh the fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And deceived them all that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell upon the earth, that they should what? Make an image to the beast, which had a wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Verse 16. And he caused it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Verse 17. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the what? Mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. I read that because that's going to be the basis, the foundation, the bedrock of our study. Let's get into it in more details. Revelation 13 verse 11 describes, then I saw another beast. What's a beast in Bible prophecy? A nation, right? The power. Coming up out of the earth. The earth is a sparsely populated area in comparison to our what?
To the sea.
To the sea. Stay with us now. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. No. 2 horns like a lamb. What does that mean? Well, the Bible in Daniel 8:20 tells us what horns represent. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. So what he's saying here is that a nation is rising up out of a sparsely populated area, and within this one nation, there's 2 systems of rule, or 2 kingdoms within the one nation. So one nation, friends, a beast rising, and it had 2 horns like a lamb. Are you following me so far?
Yeah.
So there's 2 systems of ruling in what? This one nation. Follow me carefully now. So, it's interesting that Christ said in Matthew 22:21, render to Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and to God the things which are God's. So we see the principle of the separation of church and state. So in this new nation rising, there are 2 principles of governance in the one nation. And the principles are established by the principle of separation of what? Church and state within the same nation. Are you following me, friends? Now, the 2 principles manifested in republicanism, which is one nation under God, a nation without a king, and Protestantism, one church under God, a church without a pope. So this nation rising up is one nation, but has 2 distinct principles in its what? In its manifestation, its governance. One that recognizes republicanism, not the Republican Party. Republicanism as a principle, which is that what? One nation under God, a nation without a king. Or the powers of the people. And the Protestantism, one church under God, a church without a pope. That's the principle of this new nation rising up now from a sparsely populated area. Now, the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution says what? Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting what? The free exercise thereof. Are you seeing separation?
Yeah.
Congress, which represents the what? Come on, talk to me. Represents the what? Represents the government. Shall make no law establishing on religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. You see the separation? State separated from what? Church. So within the Bill of Rights, within the First Amendment, is etched out the principle of this nation with 2 horns that are separate from each other.
Yes.
In the very core of the constitution of this nation. And that's how accurate the Bible is in its description. Friends, are you following now? That's an important point I want us to appreciate. So the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights has etched in it, engraved in it, in granite, church and state separation, because Congress can make no law respecting anything related to religion. Didn't it say making one making a law that favors one versus another. No, no, friends. Any law means any law. We got that, friends? Yeah. Because I was talking to a pastor once and he seemed to have gotten confused about this issue. He was interpreting that Congress can't make any law to benefit one religion versus another one. That's not what it says. He says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So Congress can make no law as it relates to anything that's related to what? Religion. So I just want us to appreciate that because I've seen it become confused before. Now, the First Amendment is a wall of separation between church and state. That's built in the very constitution of this country. So the rise of the United States of America, Declaration of Independence in 1776, France recognized the U.S. independence in 1777, 1778, the U.S. Constitution in effect in 1789, the French Revolution in 1789, 1791 the Bill of Rights were added, we just discussed that, and Napoleon's army captures the Pope in 1798. Now, here are the 7 principles of the United States Constitution. I'm going to go through this a little bit slowly, because we need to appreciate this. Republicanism says rule by the people through their elected representatives. So listen, friends. For a properly functioning United States governmental system, the power must rest with the people. If the power doesn't rest with the people, republicanism tears down completely. By the very nature of the principles that are the pillars of the United States as a republican nation. Friends, we got that? Ruled by the people through their elected representatives. So who's the power rest with? The people. Federalism, a system of government in which power is divided between a central government and the states. Right? I'm being very deliberate. So if you have a system, friends, where there's central power and the central power takes the power from the states, are you seeing the starting of the collapse of the republicanism as a governmental system? Yes, because by the very nature, there is a central government, but the states have their own separate one, governance. Friends, are you following me? Yeah. Amen. Alright, let's go now. Separation of powers. The divisions of basic government rolls into branches with no branch giving all the power. So friends, there's a legislative branch which make the laws. There's an executive branch that implement the laws, and there's a judicial branch that what? Interpret the laws. So for a properly functioning American Republican government, you need a legislative branch, judicial branch, and the executive branch having a balance of power, a separation of powers. We're going to explain what that means. So in other words, let me just hint at it before we get into it in details. Some things the executive branch do, the legislative branch can't do. Something the judicial branch do, neither other two branches can do. So you separate powers within this tripartite system of government. We're going to get to that soon. That's pregnant with meaning. Checks and balances. The ability of each branch of government to exercise control over the other two. So if you have a system where the executive branch is acting in ascendancy of the legislative and the judicial, are you seeing the undermining of the system? Absolutely. Limited government. Principle that requires all citizens, even the government leaders, to obey the laws. I want the church to hear what I'm saying. I'm sweating up here. You guys getting what I'm saying to you? I'm doing something very deliberate. Let me explain to you what I'm doing. This is what a properly functioning Republican government looks like. Friends, we got that? Yeah. So if it's not looking like this, friends, we're going to come back to that soon enough. Individual rights are guaranteed as inalienable rights in the Bill of Rights. So the Constitution does not give the United States citizens rights. It is supposed to protect their rights and protect their rights from the government. An inalienable right is one that is not given to you. It can't be taken from you. You can't even give it up. You can choose to succumb and let it go. Friends, we got that? That's what it means to have an inalienable right. It means a God-given right. Not based on the Constitution. Constitution is to protect that right. And protect that, the right from the government taking that right from the people. And lastly, popular sovereignty, which is that we the people define the final authority of the government. So let's go into some more detail. So, 3 branches of the government. Legislative branch, executive branch, judicial. A tripartite system, just like the Roman Republic. Are you following me so far? Tripartite. There's a Congress, there's a Senate, and there's the House of Representatives. The Congress has the Senate and House of Representatives. That's the Congress, Senate, House of Representatives. The executive has the president, the vice president, and his cabinet. And the judicial branch of the Supreme Court with 9 justices, and there are other federal courts. Let's discuss separation of powers now. Each branch has its own separate powers that the other 2 do not, thus limiting the other 2. So, only the legislative branch can make laws, coin money, establish taxes, borrows money, declares war, establish post offices, make lower courts, make laws about naturalization, make laws about naturalization, make laws about naturalization, only legislative branch. Fixes weights and measurements. Only executive branch enforces laws, is commander-in-chief, appoints judges, pardons vetos, makes the State of the Union address and calls special sessions. Only the executive branch. And only judges interpret the Constitution. So that's a principle of separation of powers within the United States Republican structure. Are you following me so far, Church brethren?
Yes.
Let's go one step further. What does it mean by constitutional checks and balances for protection? The legislative branch, Congress approves the presidential nomination and controls the budget. Friends, are you listening? I'm trying to be very subtle, but I really want you guys to get the point. So the president can't say, I'm going to take some money and build this. Because let's say the branch is supposed to check the checks and balances. Are you getting it, friends? Alright? Without me being too explicit, I hope you guys follow me clearly.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
So the point I'm trying to say is that if you see the system not working, is it truly the same system or a different system? Hold on. I don't want to answer back at it. Hold on to that. The executive branch, the president. The president can veto congressional legislation. So there's a balance here, checks and balances. The legislative branch, the Senate confirms the president's nominations. Congress can impeach judges and remove them from office. Alright? And the judicial branch, the court can declare laws unconstitutional. So if the legislative branch make a law, the judicial branch can say, no, we're the one who interpreted the Constitution, your law is not constitutional. No. The president, now with the executive branch, the president nominates judges. And the court can declare presidential acts unconstitutional, judicial branch. So you have a system of checks and balance in this tripartite Republican government. And to truly have a Republican government, you need all the systems to be working. Because if they're not working, you're in violation of the very principles of your very existence. Have you seen that, friends? Yeah. Alright, here we go. So, we're going to do a comparative, some parallel study now. So here on this side was the rise and fall of the Roman Republic. And I'm going to etch out here the rise, and let's see what's going on to the US Republic. So the first here is the rise of the republics, that the Roman Republic rose as a tripartite government with checks and balances, with 12 tables of laws, the Constitution, the United States of America. In 1776, it had independence. It had a tripartite government, yes? Legislative, judicial, and executive. Very good. And it had a system of checks and balances. We looked at a while ago. Checks and balances within the system. And it had a constitution with Bill of Rights. So is there a parallel between the US Republic and the Roman Republic? Beautiful parallel. As a matter of fact, if you go back and read the framing of the Constitution and how it came about, the forefathers went and borrowed from the Roman Republic to establish the United States Constitution. Check me up on that. That's actually factual. They were men of history. And they borrowed from the Roman Republic Constitution to establish the United States Constitution. This is how this Constitution came about. Now, the turning point, war and terror repudiation of the Constitution. That was a turning point. Here we learn that for the Roman Republic, the turning point from these many years of being a republic that functioned was that there was a terrorist attack, so-called burning of the port of Ostia in 68 BC. And we saw that Pompey's opponents were called into submission, and 2 laws were passed which undermined the footings of the Roman Republic and their constitution. We learned those 2 laws were the Lex Gabinia and the Lex Manila from this morning, yes? Now we want to talk about the United States now. Turning point, war and terror with repudiation of the Constitution. On September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center, war and terror was declared, and the Patriot Act of 2001 was passed. Who know what I'm talking about? All right, everybody's following me so far. Very good. In 2001, post 9/11, Congress enacted the Patriot Act by overwhelming bipartisan margins, arming law enforcement with new tools to detect and prevent terrorism. The USA Patriot Act was passed nearly unanimously by the Senate 98 to 1 and 357 to 66 in the House, with the support of members from across the political spectrum. So as it was in the Roman Republic, it was unheard of for the port of for a Roman colony to be attacked. And in 68 BC, the Roman port of Ostia was attacked, destroyed, pillaged. And fear struck the Roman Republic. And Pompey called the Senate to say, we're having a war on terror. This is history, friends. Go and read it. We did that this morning in great more detail than I'm going to right now. And we're seeing the parallel in 2001, where it's unheard of for the United States of America, homeland, to have received such an attack. And there was this hoopla and this great fear. And what's supposed to be a divided Senate and a divided Congress, 98 to 1. And look at the House vote, 357 to 66. Overwhelming push for the passage of the Patriot Act. And then we had this president. You are either with us or you are against us in the fight against terror. I think there was a third option. I'm not with you or against you, I'm just neutral. No. You either one. With us or against us. So here, on October 26, 2001, President Bush signed the Patriot Act. I find this a most fascinating picture.
Yes.
You know what I find so fascinating? People signing something that's going to be so draconian. Look who's smiling. This one is smiling, that's smiling. This man have his camera ready. That's amazing. You guys don't find that? That's actually an interesting slide.
Agreed.
I find it very, very interesting to see something being signed and people's response to the signature. Now, hear what President Bush said at the sign of the Patriot Act, October 26, 2001. But one thing is for certain, these terrorists must be pursued. They must be defeated. They must be brought to justice. And that is the purpose of this legislation. You know what's so fascinating about the war on terror? It's all over the world.
Worldwide.
Whoa. Is that the best enemy to have? Enemy that's everywhere? Because you can go everywhere then.
Yeah. Yep.
You guys are not listening to me. I'm making some very subtle point. I can't speak too clearly because it's being taped. You guys have to understand what I'm saying. The best enemies to have is a phantom. You can't see him. You can't touch him. He's everywhere. Remember I said something to you guys earlier this morning? That when the Bible shows a prophecy, the first occurrence of something being fulfilled, the second is always what? So we saw that in the Lex Gabinia, it was just, Pompey's command was just around the Mediterranean and 50 miles inland. With this phantom enemy,
Worldwide.
the battlefield is worldwide. And we learned that the Lex Manila gave Pompey full power, but power where? Just in that geographic area. With a phantom enemy and a war on terror. Your power is now what?
Worldwide.
Worldwide. This is what he says. And that is the purpose of this legislation. Since the 11th of September, the men and women of our intelligence and law enforcement agencies have been relentless in their response to new and sudden challenges. We have seen the horrors terrorists can inflict. We may never know what horrors our country was spared by the diligent and determined work of our police forces, FBI, the ATF agents, federal marshals, custom officers, secret service, intelligence professionals, and local law enforcement officials. Under the most trying conditions, they are serving this country with excellence and often with bravery. They deserve our full support and every means of help that we can provide. We are dealing with terrorists who operate by highly sophisticated methods and technologies. That's a load of that's foolishness. That's foolishness, friends. Total. I mean, just think it through, friends. These are supposed terrorists in some of the most poorest parts of the world. Think it through, friends. Think it through. The bill before me takes account of the new realities and dangers posed by modern terrorists. So like Pompey is speaking, right? Yeah. It will help law enforcement to identify, to dismantle, disrupt, and to punish terrorists before they strike. So we're going to look at some aspects of the Patriot Act, and you must tell me, based on what we just studied before, if it's constitutional or not. So let's go at it. U.S. Patriot Act, uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism Act of 2001. So here are the different elements of the Patriot Act. Title 1, enhancing domestic security against terrorism. Title 2, surveillance procedures. Listen, friends. Title 3, anti-money laundering to prevent terrorism. Title 4, border security. That seems to be very topical now, isn't it? Title 5, removing obstacles to investigating terrorism. Doesn't that all hinge on who's a terrorist? Friends, hint. Doesn't that hinges on who's a terrorist? So if you define a terrorist to be who you want, this can be quite a draconian attempt. Let's go further. Victims and families of victims of terrorism. Increased information sharing for critical infrastructure protection. Terrorism criminal law. Improve intelligence and miscellaneous. So is the Patriot Act unconstitutional? Let's go ahead. It violates the Fourth Amendment. Government cannot conduct a search without obtaining a warrant and showing probable cause. The Fourth Amendment protects that from the government. The Constitution does not give you the right, it does what? Protects what is inalienable already. It violates the First Amendment guarantee of free speech by prohibiting the recipients of search orders from telling others about those orders. It violates the First Amendment by effectively authorizing the FBI to launch investigations of American citizens, in part for exercising their freedom of speech. I'm sure you know that. That based on what you're saying over the different...
Absolutely.
You're being listened to.
Yeah.
You're being surveyed. You know that. That's not in this discussion anymore. We all accept that to be true. Violates the Fourth Amendment by failing to provide notice, even after the fact, to persons whose privacy has been compromised. Notice is also a key element of due process, which is guaranteed by the Fifth Amendment. So due process has been compromised. So, I put to you that there's been a crime scene, and these two buildings were in effect the Bill of Rights, and these planes were really Scud missiles, labeled the Patriot Act, that took down these Bill of Rights.
Mercy. Biggest propaganda ever.
Friends, are you following me? Are you seeing the parallel between what happened with Rome under Pompey and what happened in this republic under then President Bush? Are you seeing the parallel?
Yes.
War, Republican system working pretty well, so it seems. And we see this one, war and terror. And laws are being passed that undermines the pillars of the Constitution and this Republican system. It's going to get even more interesting. So the Patriot Act was signed by George Bush in October 26, 2001. President Barack Obama signed the Patriot Act extension in 2011. Listen, friends. Parts of the Patriot Act that expired in 2015, and the US Freedom Act restores expired parts. This was a brilliant move. People were wailing and complaining about this Patriot Act and this whole issue of having people under surveillance. So what they did was that? Change the name from the Patriot Act to call it what? US Freedom Act. That's why you call it propaganda. And then you guys have studied propaganda in school? That's propaganda. One way of propaganda is this. You change the wording and from a negative meaning to give it a what? Positive spin. So the question is this. This USA Freedom Act, is it the same or the same elements as the Patriot Act? Let's just see. So, US Freedom Act, what's in it, what's not? This is from the Washington Post. I'm just reading for what it says here. The US Freedom Act, passed by Congress and signed by the President Tuesday night, reauthorizes parts of the Patriot Act. So, what's in the Patriot Act? Instead of bulk data collection, the bill authorizes the government to collect from phone companies up to 2 hops of call records related to a suspect, if the government can prove it has reasonable suspicion that the suspect is linked to a terrorist organization. All depends on how you define what's a terrorist organization. It gives private companies more opportunities to publicly report information about the number of Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act orders that they received. So the authorities can ask from these private companies intelligence surveillance on individuals and get their private information. It extends the expiration of the 3 Patriot Act provisions, Section 215, roving wiretaps and the Lone Wolf Surveillance Authority to December 2019. Friends, you got it? So it's supposed to expire some portions 2019, December. Few months from now. I wonder if it's going to be renewed again. So, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, so the FISA court, established by FISA, Foreign Intelligence Service Surveillance Act. Most dealings are kept secret and court records are not published. So there are courts, the FISA court in this United States of America, that if you are brought before that court, the records are kept secret and they are not published. That's in this supposed Republican country, which has a First Amendment. Oversees the request for surveillance warrants. Deals with surveillance of foreign individuals and entities. The agency makes a request for a warrant, like the NSA or the FBI. They present their evidence and need for a judge. The judge will most likely use a warrant, issue a warrant. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court only has prosecution, no defendants. Case ID, a public advocate in FIAC, has a ton of power, often called a parallel Supreme Court. So the highest court in the land is supposed to be the what? Supreme Court. But there's another parallel court that if you are designated an enemy combatant or a terrorist, then you go to that court instead. So we saw that with Pompey there were 2 laws. The Lex Gabini and the Lex Manila. We see one law here, the Patriot Act. There was a second law passed. So soon after, military commissions created by President Bush by executive order in 2003 to try enemy combatants or suspected terrorists from Iraq and Afghanistan. What's wrong with that? Which branch is supposed to be the one to make laws? Legislative. He's the one. Executive. By executive order. No. In technical sense, executive order is not a law. But if it has the same effect, is it in effect a law? And the president can renew it as he sees it. Commissions are comprised of military officers. Supreme Court ruled that Bush had overstepped his bounds. And the Military Commissions Act, again, they made some adjustment to the act. Now here's what I found interesting. Military Commissions Act of 2016, this is what it says. What's an unlawful enemy combatant? The term means a person who was engaged in hostilities or who has purposely, fully or materially supported hostilities against the United States or is co-belligerent who is not a lawful enemy combatant. That's very broad. So who can be an enemy combatant? A person who was engaged in hostilities or who has purposely and materially supported hostilities against the United States. So any one of you guys can be an enemy combatant. What about next definition? Or a person who before, on or after the date of the enactment of the Military Commission Act of 2006 has been determined to be an unlawful enemy combatant by a combatant status review tribunal established under the authority of the President or the Secretary of Defense.
What's the question?
So they can just choose that this group is an enemy combatant and that group is not, and that group is, right?
Yeah.
So we see the parallel here. The war on terror in 68 BC in the port of Ostia being attacked, September 11, 2001, and we see what? Lex Gabinia was passed for the Roman occurrence, and the Lex Manila for the US occurrence we saw what was passed. The Patriot Act and the Military Commissions Act, signed by President Bush. Now we're going to look at now the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire. In the fall of the Republic, we saw that Julius Caesar marched across the Rubicon. And we said that the Rubicon was a river that separated Gaul, which was northern Italy, from Italy proper that was more in the south. It was a Roman law that says no standing army must leave and enter into Rome proper. Why? It was illegal for the military to police the Roman citizens. Are you understand that, friends?
Yes.
And once that occurred, the Republic fell and the Empire rose. So crossing the Rubicon has some serious implications. Crossing the Rubicon is a determination if you switch from a republic to an empire. Because when Julius Caesar crossed into Rome proper by crossing the Rubicon, what was followed after that?
War.
Civil War. And what rose up after that? He became dictator for life. And when he was assassinated, his nephew rose up, Augustus Caesar, who was Octavian before, as the first Roman emperor. I'm doing this slowly because I wanted to soak in. So we're going to go now, we're going to discuss now what's the fall and the rise of the United States of America. So the fall of the US Republic and the rise of the USA Empire. The Posse Comitatus Act is a United States federal law passed on June 18, 1878 with the intention of substantially limiting the powers of the federal government to use the military for law enforcement. So there's a law that they call the Posse Comitatus Act, which prevents the arbitrary use by the federal government to send military forces to police the United States of America citizens. Friends, are you following me so far? Let me go one more time. The Posse Comitatus Act is a United States federal law passed on June 18, 1878 with the intention to substantially limit the powers of the federal government to use the military for law enforcement. So from as early as 1878 in this country, the federal government, not talking the state now, the state can send out the National Guards determining what the issues are, like a disaster.
Right.
Alright? So a disaster in Florida right now, the Florida governor can send out the National Guards.
Yeah.
Florida governor, not the federal government.
Yes.
Friends, are you getting that?
Yeah.
Get the point clearly. So there's a law in the books that forbid the federal government to have military dispersed amongst the people, the citizens. Are you getting that?
Yeah.
That's the essence of the Posse Comitatus Act. The statute generally prohibits federal military personnel and units of the National Guard under federal authority from acting in the law enforcement capacity within the United States, except where Congress authorized by the Constitution or Congress. So it can't be arbitrary. But then we have something very interesting in this country. When did this look like this? When did our police force become militarized? These are policemen. That's what we were used to, and then this occurred. When did that occur? Why did it occur? Well, you have to go to look at what happened as President George W. Bush authorized on April 17, 2002, the Department of Defense announced the establishment of the United States Northern Command. to consolidate under a single unified command those existing homeland defense and civil support missions that were previously executed by other military organizations. So after September 11, and this hoopla and all these laws coming to undermine the Constitution, the then president in 2002 brought into establishment the United States Northern Command. And this was supposed to consolidate many military elements and the police force and everybody in law enforcement for the supposed purpose of what? Protecting the homeland. Well, this is the extent of the U.S. Northern Command. Follow me, listen carefully. Entire North America, the Caribbean, and all the regions of Canada and beyond over there. So all of this is patrolled by U.S. Northern Command. Now, what's the significance of what I'm saying? Here it is. And now the stones are going to start to cry out now. And now you understand why I said what I said regarding if the people of God choose to be quiet, God is going to make the very stones cry out. The non-Christians start to cry out. It's going to make sense to you now. See it here now. So from now on, you're going to hear stones singing songs that we are silent on. Lately, so this is coming from Posse Comitatus and Crossing America's Rubicon. So this writer here, a stone, is writing in the context of the significance of Caesar crossing the Rubicon and the changes to America's police force becoming militarized. Are you following me?
Yes.
So the stone is crying out now. Hear what the stone is saying. Lately, there has been an end run around the Posse Comitatus Act. So he's saying, instead of them breaking the law, they're going to what? Around the law. You see what you understand what he's saying? If you can't deploy the armed forces against the public, you can achieve pretty much the same result by militarizing law enforcement and bringing them on the wing of Homeland Security.
Yep.
So in other words, he's explaining this. This is what he says. Equip the cops with combat gear, outfit them with modern military weaponry, and deploy them in armored military vehicles, all supplied for next to nothing, and voila, problem solved. But he goes on and gives something even more adept, as stones tend to do sometimes when the disciples choose not to cry out. This is what he says. So we're going to get to that, but this is what he's talking about. These are police officers, fully militarized. Police officers, fully militarized. There it is, police. Fully military, full military gear. Full military fatigue, agree?
Yeah.
Listen what they're saying. Listen what this author says now. The essential precepts of a free government crossing the Rubicon Posse Comitatus. So a second stone crying out now. Listen what the stone says. These stones are brilliant. The people of God are sleeping. World events are occurring and we are supposed to be the persons to explain it to people why these are occurring. And we are sleeping. Listen to what the stone are saying. The expansion of federal military authority to act with police powers over the free exercise of natural rights of the people of America granted by God would be comparable to Caesar's crossing of the... That's a stone speaking, dear friends. So you understand why I gave you that slide? Yeah. You understand why I spoke about that now? That the people have got quiet, God's going to let the stones speak, the stones are speaking. This man is not an Adventist Christian as far as I know. And he's showing so much insight.
Right.
He said, people, understand that when Caesar crossed the Rubicon, Rome changed.
Yes.
And if you doubt me, say the next line. We can only imagine history continuing the process of repeating itself. Why is he saying that? With the death of the Republic. So he's saying, history taught us that when Caesar crossed the Rubicon, when the armies of Rome became militarized and came into proper amongst the citizens, that spelled what? The end of the what? Republic. And he's saying here, let me read it one more time. the expansion of the federal military authority to act with police powers over the free exercise of natural rights of people of the America granted by God. So what is he making reference to here? The Constitution. He said that there are inalienable rights, not man-given rights. So the freedom of the people to be oppressed by the military is a God-given right. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
This is what he says now. Would be comparable to Caesar's crossing of the Rubicon. But it doesn't stop there. He says that no, I don't want you guys confused. The stone must fire very clearly. What is stone saying now? Stone is saying what? We can only what? Imagine history continuing the process of repeating itself with the death of the Republic. But doesn't even stop there. He goes one step further and leading to the eventual decline and fall of the American Empire. What? You can understand what the man is saying? This man is saying that when the police force became militarized, is akin to Caesar crossing the Rubicon. And that signaled the fall of the what? Republic. And what's going to rise?
Empire.
An empire, but empire going to ultimately what?
Fall.
So the parallel between what we saw with Roman Republic and the US Republic in its fall is perfectly symmetrical. So, crossing America's posse comitatus act with the death of American Republic. So can I put it to us that we are no longer in a republic?
Amen.
We may have the trappings on paper, but the next one, next there are functional roles. We don't have friends. And it's going to get more interesting. I'm just throwing that out there, but I want to make the point very tight before we finish this discussion. Let's continue. So here is up. So Julius Caesar broke the Roman law when he marched his legions across the Rubicon into Italy properly. Roman Republic fell and rose up. Then was the what? The empire. Similar parallel here, establishment of NORTCOM by President Trump and skirting the constraints of the Posse Comitatus Act. That occurred by militarizing the police force. Commenced the fall of the US Republic. Succession of imperial presidents. So after Rome fell from a republic, we saw what rose up was what? Emperors. Emperors. Imperial emperors. The first one being Augustus. And a whole string of them followed afterwards. Well, stones. I need some information from you, stones. Because the church doesn't say anything. So the stones need to speak again. So this is one by John Whitehead, Dictator for Life, the rise of the American imperial president. We can have to go to the stones because what? Disciples not saying a thing. So let's go to the stone and what the stone has to say. Stone, what are you saying? The presidency itself has become an imperial one with permanent powers. As Lord Professor William P. Marshall explains, every extraordinary use of power by one president expands the availability of executive branch power for use by the future presidents. So as one president establishes an executive order, though he may leave office, it's still on the books for the other president to have the opportunity to use if he so chooses.
Yes.
So as the president's like a relay, as they made these executive orders, it in essence elevating the executive branch above the what? Legislative and above the what? Judicial. So in essence, what are you doing? Do you truly have a functional republic then?
No.
Absolutely not. He goes on. Moreover, it doesn't even matter whether other presidents have chosen not to take advantage of any particular power, because it is our president's action in using power rather than forsaking its use that has the presidential significance. These stones are speaking so beautifully. What more have to say to a stone? Mr. John Whitehead? In other words, each successive president continues to add to his office's list of extraordinary orders and directives, expanding the reach and power of the presidency and granting him or herself near dictatorial powers. So friends, since 9/11 we have had 2 imperial presidents.
Yes. Yes.
Let me just be blunt.
Yes.
We're not living in a true functional republic anymore. We have transitioned over to the point where we're now embracing an imperial mindset. And some of you guys still not convinced, so let's push on. I hope before we finish you'll be convinced. So we saw that. as the Roman Empire rose with Emperor Augustus Caesar and succession of imperial emperors, you see the rise of the US Empire with a continued succession of imperial presidents. Two so far. We discussed George W. Bush, that's his son Bush, and President Obama. Next thing was the Church-State Union. AD 313, Edict of Milan passed by Emperor Constantine. The churches were encouraged to incorporate. I promised someone this afternoon that I'm going to prove the point. Now here it is now, I'm going to prove the point. Alright, so we're going to discuss the whole issue about Church-State Union in our time. Listen carefully now. Church-State Union. The Bible says in Revelation 13:14, and he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. Say to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast which are the wound by a sword and live. So there must be a making to the image of the beast. Now there's something that we have missed so many times to understand the image of the beast. And I'm hoping by God's grace you guys can see clearly now. Pay attention. Here is from Great Controversy 445, first paragraph. And she said something so subtle that we have missed it over and over again. Listen what she said. When the leading churches of the United States, when the what?
Leading churches
of the United States, united upon such points of doctrine as are held by them in common, shall influence the state to enforce their decrees and to sustain their
institution.
You guys didn't get that? You guys didn't get that one a while ago. Then Protestant America will have formed an image to the Roman hierarchy.
Wow. Wow.
You guys didn't get that. Lord, give me wisdom. She's saying here, we're the leading church of this country. Not only seek the state to sustain their decrees, but the state sustaining their institutions.
That's an image.
Friends, you got that? We're not going to move here until you guys get this.
We get it.
Let's go one more time. When the leading church of the United States, united upon such points of doctrine as are held by them in common, shall influence the state to enforce their decrees and to sustain their
Institution.
So it means that the churches must get some benefit from the what? State. Where that has occurred, what has been formed? Image of the beast, image of the Roman hierarchy. We got that, friends? This is not my word, that's what it's saying. We're clear on that now? We see that now? What's the significance of that? What's the significance of the state giving support to the churches in the creation of the image of the beast? Let's look into that.
Yes.
March 27, 2006, the Bush administration put into law a new executive order number 13397 that encouraged the churches to incorporate with 501c3 status. I'm going to read from the executive order right now. Now, I'm going to read this is not my quotation. It's from the executive order. Section 3 says, responsibilities of the Center for Faith-Based and Community Initiatives in carrying out the purpose set forth in Section 2 of this order, the Center shall be coordinate a comprehensive departmental effort to incorporate faith-based and other community organizations in department programs and initiatives to the greatest extent possible. So did we learn with the Edict of Milan that Constantine did what?
Join church.
No, church, he what?
Incorporated.
He incorporated the churches so they could get their property back and get special privileges. We see in 2006, then President Bush signed an executive order. That intent was to get the churches incorporated to the greatest extent possible. This what I've read, dear friends, is not that's a quotation from Section 3 in the very executive order 13397. So why is it necessary? Why is it so important for Constantine to have the churches incorporated? Why is it so important that President Bush required, to the greatest extent possible, to have the churches incorporated? You see it now, friends? You guys still don't see that yet? Whoa, tough even. All right, let's press through. We're going to get back to that point. No, we're going to deal with the point right now. So, here it is. What does it mean to incorporate? I think that's where the basis lies on. So here he was signing, and you see all these religious leaders around him. You see that? So this is in March 2006. He's signing this faith-based initiative order. Yes? To have the churches and its faith-based organizations become incorporated to the greatest extent possible. Follow me now. And there he's signing right there. And all these religious leaders here from different faiths are signed, looking quite happy again. Quite happy again. What is the 501c3? Well, in 1954, Senator Lyndon Johnson slipped an amendment called the 501c3 Corporation on the end of the Ways and Means Bill approving funds for the use by not-for-profit agencies. 501c3 of a corporation is a business corporation and an instrument of the government organizing the privilege of what? Tax exemption. So when a church becomes 501c3 incorporated, they have tax exemption privilege. They can bring in things, they can buy in things, they can do business, and they what? They don't have to pay certain taxes that are required. Now, when a church accepts the 501c3, that church becomes controlled by a spirit of fear, and if it doesn't toe the line, the IRS, it can lose its tax status. And they can retroactively ask back for their money.
Yes.
Yeah, they can.
At any time.
They can. That's a state law. Becomes a state church. How the church listening what I'm saying?
Yes, we are.
Some political activity like advocating and lobbying for legislation is acceptable. Some is acceptable. However, it prevents endorsement and campaigning for or against candidates on the pulpit. Understand this, friends. You become a state church. You cannot endorse anything. Prevents endorsement and campaigning for or against candidates on the pulpit. Prevents politicians from receiving tax-deductible finances from churches. So when a church becomes incorporated, they cannot from the pulpit endorse any candidate, and they can't get any dark money, that's the name they call it, dark money, from any churches to fund any political party. We'll get to that soon. You got that, Virgin? So when a church is incorporated, let me go again. There are certain restrictions. The pastors can't stand in the pulpit and support a particular party. They can't. Not only that, they can't get any dark, the political party can't get any dark money from any particular church. A church can't say, hey, take $1 million. It can't occur. Under the 501c3. Now, what was interesting is this. President Bush started this faith-based initiative in 2006. We're going to see that in 2009, President Obama pushed it beyond an initiative to make that actual office. This is what he did. Obama administration have elevated a faith-based initiative, which was started by George Bush, yes, to a new White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnership. At the appointment of Joshua DeBoer, a former associate pastor and advisor to President Obama in his U.S. Senate office and campaign director of religious affairs, President Obama said, this is what everybody said now, Joshua understands the issues at stake, knows the people involved, and will be able to bring everyone together from both the secular and faith-based communities, from academia and politics around our common goals. This, the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, the White House Office of the Press Secretary, and that's the date 2009. So what was the initiative by President Bush has now been elevated to what? Actual office. And there you go again, that beautiful picture. He's signing that executive order, and everybody seems to be very happy. Amazing. And you guys trying to convince yourself that it matters if it's Republican or Democrat? Brothers and sisters, please, let's wake up and stop this nonsense.
Amen.
When you run a relay, friends, it doesn't matter who finishes the race. Your job is to pass the baton on. He who have here, let them hear what I'm just saying, what I said a while ago. When you run a relay, it don't matter which of the four you guys have won the race. Your job is to run your part and pass the baton on. So you start with the Office of Faith-Based Initiative, you push it to our Office of what? No, you start with a faith-based initiative, you push it to our Office of what? Faith-based and neighborhood partnerships. Intent was started churches what? Incorporated what? Great extent what? Possible. You gonna understand the meaning? That soon as that will have pregnant with meaning soon. That's gonna give birth soon. So here it is. Start, run the race, pass the baton on. So a state church system. I love this slide. The state is actually above the church. I wonder if it's going to change.
Oh, yes.
Now let's see. So, Revelation 13:15 says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as should worship the image of the beast should be killed. So the image of the beast is formed first, but it needs to get what after that? Life. And how you know it have life? Because it's going to what? Speak and cause.
Make love.
Get the image of friends. An image is being formed, if the beast is being formed, which we saw, that was what went what? When we see that what? The churches, the popular churches, having their decrees and their very business being supported and sustained by what? The state, then the image of the beast is formed.
Yes.
And that has been formed already. We just saw that a while ago. But it doesn't stop there. The image must now get what now? Life. And he had what? Power to give life to the image of the beast. And how are you going to know the image of the beast of life? To speak and cause. We got that, friends?
Yes.
So then came Donald Constantine. And if I've never seen two people so similar, one of them has surely have miserable bad luck. Now the stones are going to speak again because we're quiet. So the stones have to, it's remarkable. I've spent over 10 years studying what I'm showing this comparative study between the fall of the Roman Republic and the fall of the US Republic. And it's remarkable. I have found the stones to be so precise in their analysis. Because the disciples have kept quiet. Because the Pharisees have told them to keep quiet. You guys not getting that. You guys miss you guys a while ago. You guys didn't get that a while ago. The Pharisees, who sometimes live at the conference level, have said to the disciples, who sometimes be the pastors of the churches, to keep quiet, and they listen to them. And Christ says what? If these hold their peace, the stones shall what? Cry out. The stones are going to cry out now. So I'm going to let you hear from a stone now, crying out. What is the comparison between Donald Trump and Constantine? Stones speak. I won't say much, the stones speak. Hear what the stone says. Constantine and Trump, is history repeating itself?
Whoa.
Israel Today, April 9, 2017 by Brian Hennessy. A stone. The stone speaking now. And the stone is saying, I am seeing a troubling comparison between these two men, and is history repeating itself. Bear in mind, we learned before that Constantine was the one who brought in the what? Church-state union, and subsequently the son-in-law. And this man is worried about this man, Trump, being Constantine, and vice versa. Here's the argument, not mine, here's the argument. Hear what the stone saying. An eerie parallel is beginning to emerge between the newly elected American president and the 4th century emperor of Rome, which is who? Constantine. If it continues on course, it does not bode well for either the body of the Messiah or Israel. Constantine, as we know, was the one who looked like the most powerful friend Christianity ever had. Brilliant analogy. I mean, this man is brilliant.
Whoa.
You guys hear what the man said? But in fact, he was the one who became his greatest betrayer, sending the faith spiral into apostasy for centuries afterwards. Before he became emperor, Christians were suffering terribly under the Roman emperors. We're suffering.
Yeah.
All these laws under President Obama.
Yeah.
Gay rights. This
Yes.
Oh, we're suffering.
Right.
We need a new president.
Yes.
Right, right.
Yes.
We need a Christian-minded president.
Mercy.
One who loves religion.
Mercy God.
I mean, the stories are just when I read this, I said, wow, this man is a brilliant analytical man. He goes on by saying, Rome was a pagan polytheistic empire, but Christianity had no idol, sacrificing priesthood, temple, or holy day. So its followers were considered atheists, but by Roman standards and persecuted accordingly. Listen to what he says. Constantine changed all that after supposedly seeing a vision which he attributed to the Christian God, which led him to achieve a decisive military victory. You see? Did you have a president who had a decisive victory because he had support from the Christians? I'm going to prove it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this man is just so acute. The man goes on by saying, He then promoted Christianity to become the dominant religion of the empire as a way to unify Israel. Christians even started to believe he was bringing in the kingdom of God and completing the work Yeshua had begun. Don't we have a president who went on to Israel and changed some embassy and people say, ooh, this is prophecy being fulfilled. The kingdom of God is coming. Friends, are you hearing the message I'm saying to you? God has not left us a witness. The disciples have gone quiet. God is saying, stones, it's time to speak. Do you understand why I gave you that slide now earlier? And I'm saying it's going to be an unusual presentation because the stones are going to speak. Because the church has gone silent. The disciples have listened to the Pharisees and gone quiet. And God is raising up the stones and saying, listen, church, to the stones. This man thinking is just so brilliant, it's amazing. And the parallel man is drawing is just so amazing. Trump's rise to America's throne of power also comes at a time when Christian civilization is under serious attack. Wasn't that the mantra why he got elected?
Yeah.
Oh, we need a more conservative president who loves Christianity and away with Obama's system of immorality. Wasn't that a cry, friends?
Yes.
Oh yes, it was a cry. Radical Islam has been unleashing its demonic hatred against Christians all over the world, as well as against Jews and other minorities. At the same time, secular humanism has all but dethroned biblical beliefs in the West. Amazing. Thesis and antithesis. Obama run your race, causes great moral decline, and spur the people to ask for Constantine. Brilliant. And the man is seeing it and the man is talking about it. The stones are crying out. And we are going around like we're idiots as Seventh-day Adventist Christians who are supposed to understand this message to explain. No! That's the burden of this series. Explain world events. No. That's the burden. Do you understand why I'm doing this, friends?
Amen.
We need to be able to explain world events because the stones are clearer than we are. And people are coming to us at airports, at different places, having a lunch, our colleagues. Why are these things happening? Why this man build this? Why this man move the embassy from here to there? Why do people say the kingdom of God is going to come in? That was the same acclaim. That was the same response they made to Constantine. Oh, he's a friend of Christianity. Here the stone continues. However, Trump's stunning victory has brought new hope that both of these satanic onslaughts can roll back. All this immorality and all these things about Islam and all this terror. Yeah, let's bring him in. He's going to fix it for us. He's going to unite us together. And that decades of declining biblical values can be restored through political power.
Oh my.
Bridget, have you watched sometime on television, you watch on CNN, when this president groping people left, right, and center, and you see some evangelical leader come down and give him the support.
Yep, Jesus defend us.
Defend the man. Pit of immorality. Defend the man. And that decades of declining biblical values can be restored through political power. Is that ever possible? Never. Religion is a matter of the heart that requires transforming grace, not political power. The Bible said he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Listen now, which of course they can't. The stone say that to the friends. The stone say that. Nevertheless, he's being heralded as a new champion of faith. Though the genuineness of his faith, like Constantine's, is questionable. I mean, this is just brilliant writing. When I read this, I just said to myself, Lord, you're so good. The stones are making some comparative biblical study that we Adventists haven't had the guts to take on. You don't find this so fascinating? The parallel the man is finding between the two persons is just mind-blowing. Even to the point where he's even questioning both persons' faith, even though they claim to be the greatest champion of Christianity. So, 2016 president election and Trump's courting evangelicals. There he is with his Bible. What's your favorite Bible text? 2 Corinthians, some nonsense.
Something like that.
Christians are the most powerful lobbyist group. That's what he said. but there was something blocking him. The 501c3 silence in the churches. So understand something, friends. Please get this point. I want you guys to appreciate this point. Remember what I said, when that church was under 501. So listen, watch the playbook. Let's throw the net out by these faith-based initiatives and then faith-based offices and pull in all the churches, get them much as what? Incorporate them. An active effort to what? Incorporate them. So you have a state church system. Follow me now carefully, my friends. But in doing that, what happened? The churches are what now? Muslim. The churches can't support any candidate from the pulpit, nor can they get any dark money from any churches. I mean, the candidates can't get the money from the churches. Are you following me? So when Trump met in New York with a whole consortium of evangelicals, pastors, they said to him that, we want to support you, but guess what? We have the 501c3, and by law it muzzles us. We can't give you support from the pulpit, and we can't give you any money.
Give us our voice back.
So, we talk about Lyndon Johnson, the 501c silence in the churches. So Donald Trump vows to totally destroy the Johnson Amendment that stops churches funding political parties. That was his pledge to them.
Yep.
So here is what, this is also brilliant. Now, we're going to hear now an interesting discourse coming from the president himself. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, so the image of the beast may speak and cause. Alright. So, exclusive, Donald Trump tells Brody 5, I want to give power back to the church, 2016. In an exclusive interview with the Brody 5, Donald Trump wants to see Christian pastors speak, and he had power to cause the image of the beast to what? Speak and cause. What's that the Bible said?
Yes.
Wants to see Christian pastors speak more boldly from the pulpit because he wants to see it. The church has to have more
Power.
and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. So the image of the beast does what? Speak and cause. He's saying here, Donald Trump wants to see Christian pastors speak more boldly from the pulpit because he wants to see it. The church has to have more power. That's his quotation. Next one. They have taken a lot of power away from the church. I want to give power back to the church. I want pastors and ministers to be able to get up and speak on behalf of Christianity, and therefore, and they are afraid to do it right now because they don't want to lose their tax exempt status. We will take care of that. That's his words. Quotations.
Yep.
Give us Constantine. He's a friend of the church. And his intention is to what? Jail us and drive us behind his chariot.
Mercy.
And put some of us in bondage and some of us are going to be martyrs. Next one. Trump to evangelicals. I'm going to give churches their voice back. See, this is all in election time now, friends. I'm showing you, September 2016. That was his promise.
Yeah.
To win them over.
And they did come.
Addressing the 11th annual gathering of the Conservative Values Voter Summit in Washington, the GOP nominee said the first thing he would do is give our churches their voice back. And he shall have power to do what? May the image of the beast what? Speak and cause. And they blessed him. They lay hand on him and they blessed him. And they blessed him and they sent him out with a blessing. And bam! White evangelical voters, 2016 presidential elections race, exit poll. Donald Trump, 81% of white evangelical voters, Hillary Clinton, 60%. White evangelical voters helped give Trump victory. We have gotten Constantine, the friend of the church. And he won. Trump takes power. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. So the image of the beast would what? Speak and cause. So if you want to read, if you want to study some more on this, you can go to this YouTube link, the Trump Deception, Church and State. No, this is after the election now. This is next year. February next year. February 2017, a bill, the Free Speech Fairness Act, that was a House Resolution 781, 115 Congress, was introduced in the Congress. It would lift the restrictions the Johnson Amendment provide on political speech by pastors from the pulpit. It failed. But here's something. The Bible made it quite clear that he's going to do this by power, not by speech. A country speaks through its what?
Laws.
Laws. So it had to fail because the prophet says it's going to fail. But he's going to cause the same effect through his what? Power. You guys got that?
Yes.
There was a law with intent to pass that would have dissolved the Johnson Amendment. It failed because the prophet said he didn't speak and give power to the image of the beast. He had power to give to the image of the beast. When a country speaks, it speaks by what? Its laws. So there's no law that's going to pass to give life to the image of the beast. There won't be a law to pass to give image to the life of the beast. Life of the image of the beast is going to get life through the power of someone who has power to give it life. Then it's going to speak. I want you guys to let me see if I can go back and you guys understand that point. Because it's so important. I don't want you guys to miss this point. Oh, I'm sure I passed it. No, let's go back. Here it is. And he, talk about the United States of America, the second beast, had power to give life under the image of the beast. So the image of the beast is going to get life through what? Power. When it gets that power, then the image of the beast should both what? Speak and cause. He did not say he spoke and gave life to the image of the beast. That would mean that it would require what? A legislative action. But that's not what the Bible says. So that's why this resolution we discussed a while ago, this law, had to fail. Because the Bible says it's not going to be a law that's going to give life to the image of the beast. It's going to be what? Somebody using what? Power to give life to the image of the beast. Then the image of the beast now is going to start to influence legislation by speaking itself and enforcement by causing. You guys get the difference? Who don't understand that? Raise your hand, please. Don't be shy. So we all understand that. I'm not so convinced as yet, but afterwards we come back to that point. But it's a very, very important point. And I've been watching these to the very words in our friends. I'm not exaggerating, I'm telling the truth. I've been watching these occurrences to the very words. But let's go back to where we were now. So here we are now. So here we are now. So it failed. Alright? Didn't go through. Failed. But then in the February that same year at the prayer breakfast, he said this: Christian faith is not the past, but the present and the future. It is a foundation of progress. And I pledge to you that if I win, we're going to end the Johnson Amendment, which takes away the voice of pastors. That was his promise. And true to form, May 4, 2017, he used his power to start to change that by making an executive order. A president executive order is not a law, it's through his executive what? Power. So President Trump signs executive order aimed at easing an IRS rule limiting political activity for religious organizations. You guys get that, friends?
Yes.
So instead of passing a law, the law failed. He wrote an executive order through his power, which is not a law, which now says to the IRS, ease your restrictions on these churches that are that have executive, that have the 501c3. So let me go again. He wrote an executive order that says, IRS, ease those tight restrictions on churches that they can't get involved in political activity, that they can't do this, they can't do that. Ease that. Through his what? Through his power. Now, here's what I found another stone crying out. This is a very astute gentleman called Edward Watts. A stone again. This is what he says. Aspects of our modern politics remind University of California and San Diego historian Edward Watts of the last century of the Roman Republic, roughly 130 BC to 27 BC. This is the time the transition from the Republic to the Empire. That's why he took a fresh look at the period in his new book, Mortal Republic, How Rome Fell into Tyranny. So the stones are going to speak again. This man writes a new book because he sees some interesting parallel between the two republics. This is what he says. This is his writing. He's writing. What chronicles the ways of republic with a population once devoted to national service and personal honor was torn to shreds by growing wealth inequality, partisan gridlock, political violence, and pandering politicians. He's talking about his country. US or ancient Rome. Both. Beautiful. You got it, Ella. Both. So he's making reference in the primary sense here to what? Roman Republic, but the applications in what? US Republic. Or the then Republic. And argues that the people of Rome chose to let their democracy die by not protecting their political institutions, eventually turning to the perceived stability of an emperor instead of facing the continued violence of an unstable and degraded republic. This country is going through a social civil war right now.
Amen.
Yeah, we are. Total divisive country right now. And we are seeing growing wealth inequality. Tax break.
To the wealthy.
I mean, amazing. $5 trillion tax break. Who has gotten most of it? The wealthy. The divide is even wider. Have you ever seen partisan gridlock like that before? When the last time the Congress really passed a proper law that benefited the people? Gridlock. Political violence and pandering politicians. Have you ever seen that before? Over 20 candidates on the Democratic side. And Constantine singly, the friend of Christianity on the other side. Oh, that's going to be an interesting battle, isn't it? Rome chose to let their democracy die by not protecting their political institution, eventually turning to the perceived stability of an emperor instead of facing the continued violence of an unstable and degraded republic. Political messaging during the 2018 midterm election hinged on many of these exact topics. So, here it becomes interesting now. Go on to the next year now, go on to the year 2018. So we saw that Obama, and we saw that President Bush started the race. An initiative, a faith-based initiative, get the churches incorporated. Obama took the baton, run. Let's establish an office now. Give it more power and prestige. Then Trump says, let me carry it home now. President Donald Trump announced Thursday, May 3rd, 2018, a new initiative that aims to give faith-based groups a stronger voice throughout the federal government and provide recommendations on administration policies. It is here. Don't doubt yourself. It is here. It is here, friends. He had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Let's go again. President Donald Trump announced Thursday, May 3rd, 2018, a new initiative that aims to give faith-based groups a stronger voice throughout the federal government and a stronger what, friends? Voice throughout the federal government and provide recommendations on administration policies. Trump will sign executive order and state initiative. Paula White was at church, I think somewhere in North Florida. Paula White, you know that famous
Big church.
youth church, famous preacher, female preacher, who's supposed to be the spiritual guide to President Trump. This is what she says. She was there. I'm going to show you a picture in there soon. This is what she said. This order is a historic action, strengthening the relationship between faith and government.
Mercy.
I thought the First Amendment says Congress shall make there can be no relationship between the two. Separation of church and state. This order is a historic action strengthening the relationship between faith and government in the United States, and the product will be countless transformed lives.
Oh, yes.
Listen now. Listen now. Listen now. Wait, I don't want to miss this. Listen what is on. Trump's White House has evangelicals on speed dial, says activists who prayed over the president. That was 2017. So this is the access that the evangelicals don't have access to the president. Evangelical Christians have unprecedented access to the President Donald Trump White House and are on speed dial with the administration, according to an activist who prayed over the president in the Oval Office. So regularly, evangelicals go and give him a prayer bath. If you want to get the concepts I'm trying to give. Yeah, that's according presently. Yes, that's our current president. So here we see something interesting. What was that state church system is switched now to what? Church state system, and the church is on top, no pun intended. You guys didn't get that. I'm not going to be naughty, but you guys, I'm trying to make a point. It switched from a state church system to a church state system with the church on top. You guys don't get it now. That would be naughty. You guys get the point I'm saying? Says no what? Church state. And here it is in bed with Paula White. So the church is in bed with the state, and we have a church state system. What's the difference? So the state church system was under the restriction. The church was under the restriction of the state. But a church state system, who has the power now? So the church can now speak. They don't speak on cause, yes, but speak to the issues of legislation through the president and enforce them through causing. You see that, friends? Now, dark money can probably, I wouldn't be surprised by the next election, dark money can start going from the churches to the politicians. What about the next election we see pastors stand in the pulpit and saying, God says we must vote for President Trump? You think that's far-fetched? Oh, friends, some have said it already. And remember he said, I've written an executive order to ease the IRS. Leave them alone. Yeah. Because I have the power to do it. IRS, let them speak. Leave them alone. Friends, we're there. We're there, friends. Let me wrap it up now. Wrap it up to clean up. So here we saw here, friends, the church state system established. Emperor Constantine, and we see Donald Constantine Trump using the executive power to give life to apostate Protestantism to influence legislative process. Parallels are brilliant, and the stone is the one that giving us these insights. The church is quiet. Disciples are quiet because the Pharisee says what? Keep quiet, disciples. Christ says, guess what? If they keep quiet, the stones are going to speak. The stone's speaking. I've never seen any pastor present a message like this or read anything like this. Never ever. But the stones are doing it. So here it is now, friends. Wrapping up now. The present is a time of overwhelming interest to all living. Rulers and statesmen, men who occupy positions of trust and authority, thinking men and women of all classes, have their attention fixed upon events taking place about us. They are watching the strained, restless relationships that exist among the nation. They observe the intensity that is taking possession of every earthly element, and they recognize that something great and decisive is about to take place, that the world is on the verge of a stupendous crisis. That's the crisis.
Amen.
That's a crisis. And men and women are saying, why is the politics of the United States looking like this? Why this country that's supposed to be a republic operating like an empire? Why are we seeing a series of imperial presidents? They are asking questions. Because it says what? Thinking men and women are asking these questions. They have the mind on these events. Why are we seeing the politics looking like this? And the church must be the one to what? Answer. But the Pharisees have said, don't disciples, keep quiet. Thank God that he still has stones. Amen. Some of those stones are going to become converted and enter the church. Yes. And yes. Some of us are going to leave and the stone sit right in here. And no longer a stone. Because the heart is going to be transformed. Take on the stone heart and get the heart of flesh called conversion. Yes. Amen. But God always have a witness. If even the stones are going to cry. King Me, Time Magazine, June 8, 2018. This is what it said. Visions of absolute power. Speak, stone, I will listen to you, stone, speak. My church has gone quiet, so let me listen to the stone. So this is a stone in the Time Magazine, making the understanding that Donald Trump is an imperial president and we're living under an empire and the republic is dead and gone. The stone saying that, Time Magazine. Is that a religious magazine? No, far from it. Donald Trump's campaign to discredit the Russia investigation may be working. It's also damaging American democracy. By Molly Ball and Tessa Burns said June 8, 2018, if they impeach the president, it would be up to the Senate to hold a trial, presided over the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. It would require a 6-7 vote supermajority to convict Trump and remove him from office. But you know what's so fascinating? Caesar knew that he couldn't enter Rome as a citizen. Because he was going to be what?
Prosecuted.
Prosecuted.
Prosecuted, yeah.
So he eventually entered as a what? A general. I wonder if he's going to be a wartime president soon.
Oh, yeah.
I just wonder that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, goodness.
Because who removes a wartime president?
Nobody.
You can't do that, man.
We're at war.
And everybody, there's a whole lot of pile of evidence there waiting that if he becomes a citizen, he can be what?
Prosecuted.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant parallels. I wonder if we're going to have a wartime president very soon. I wonder, I'm just curious. He's drumming up with Iran, and he's drumming up with Venezuela, and he's drumming up of war all over the place, and the war, just beating the war drums. I'm just curious. I think Julius Caesar was a smart man. And all these imperial, they know that. If I leave my deployment and return as a citizen, I'm going to be persecuted. But who prosecutes a wartime president? Or a wartime imperial emperor? I'm just curious. Fascinating, friends. We shall see. We shall see. Alright? No, Satan puts his interpretation upon events, and they think that, as you would have them, that the calamities which fill the land are a result of Sunday breaking. Thinking to appease the wrath of God, these influential men make laws enforcing Sunday observance. Manuscript releases 10, our last day events, 129, 4th paragraph. Listen to this now. Hold on to your seats, friends. Trump says it will be hard to unify country without a major event. PBS News Hour, January 30, 29, 2018. Please everybody take a picture of this. And check this out for yourself, because I don't want you guys to accuse me of making up stuff. Please, I'm serious. Try. He did say that.
Yeah, no, you did.
Yes, this is what he said. I would love to be able to bring back our country to a great form of unity, Trump said. Without a major event, where will people pull? Without a major event, where people pull together. That's hard to do. But I would like to do it without that major event.
Okay.
Because usually that major event is not a good thing.
Okay. He's fully aware. What's coming? It's coming.
Alright, he says it. See, friends? The calamities which land are a result of Sunday breaking, influential men made laws enforcing Sunday observance. And he's saying that, guess what? Some major event going to be required to pull Democrats and Republicans who are so far apart, and you want to use these evangelicals as a binding agent between the two, so you have to bring a religious matter. You got that, friends? His strongest supporters is still the religious majority.
Yeah.
So if you're going to bring Republicans and Democrats together, they have to be the binding agent. So the issue will have to be an issue of what? Something regarding religion. And he had power to give life on the image of the beast. So the image of the beast don't speak and cause. Speak out. The image of the beast, apostate protectors, and being able to influence the legislative process. We see that already, that's happening already. They have him on speed dial. Cause, influence the enforcement of laws. So it's going to be apostate Protestantism are going to be the one to pass the laws and enforce them.
In the Mecca movement.
Friends, do you get that, friends? Church, do you get that a while ago, friends? It's going to be apostate Protestantism going to be the one to pass, influence the pass of the laws and influence the what? Enforcement of the laws. The speaking of the nation is the action of its legislative and judicial authorities. Great Controversy 4:20-21. They shall be under the influence of the evangelicals. We see the efforts that have been made to restrict our religious liberties. The Sunday question is now assuming large proportions. An amendment to our constitution is being urged in Congress, and when it is obtained, operation must follow. Review December 1880. Listen to this down, friends. If the people can be led to favor a Sunday law, then the clergy intend to exert their united influence to obtain a religious amendment to the constitution and compel the nation to keep Sunday. You see, friends? If the people can be what? Influence. We are going the wrong direction. That's why we're all having all these disasters and wars. We need to come back to God. That's what the man said to me on the plane.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the man said to me on the plane. Then the clergy, in turn, we're going to influence what? Exert a united influence to obtain a what? Religious amendment to the constitution and compel the nation to keep Sunday. So the people are going to feel the pain, The clergy are going to say, we have our mandate. No, the people have given us the mandate. And we have a line of communication with the president and he has the power. We know going to what? Influence the what? Legislation, pass the law and to enforce it. Religious amendment to the Constitution. What does that mean? Amendment that changes the written words of the Constitution. Alright? We're not going to get into this. How is the Constitution amendment? These ways. Method 1, Congress proposes the state legislature ratify. Method 2, Congress proposes state convention ratify. Method 3, National Convention proposes state legislature ratify. National Convention proposes state ratify. Whichever one of these methods. Which constitution you think is going to be, which one of the amendments you think is going to be changed? Which one you think? Which one of the amendments is as a religious clause? The first one. So what if it changed from, it didn't say it's going to be abolished. Amended. So what if it says something like, Congress can only make laws that doesn't favor one over another. Wouldn't that be brilliant? You guys get what I say earlier? So what if you make a law that favors the majority, but these Seventh-day Adventist Christians are the minority? You fulfill your purpose. So we're going to make a law that says everybody must keep Sunday. So nobody can say we're making a law contrary to what they say. So it's a fair law. So it seems. Because it's going to affect everybody. You following me, friend? Some of you guys look shocked. I'm giving you guys some interesting concepts. Think about it, friends. Not an amendment, not a get rid of the law. But a what? Amendment. So if you have a law that's supposed to affect everybody. What if I make a law and says, everybody must eat meat? Can anybody come and say, I'm being unfair to them? Not really. Because I'm not saying, I'm basically saying that's true for everybody. But what if I don't eat meat? Then it becomes a problem. Are you seeing the concept, friends? So it's not an amendment to change, to say, let's get rid of the first amendment. No, it's to what? Amend it, to modify it. Think about that. So there's so much more thought to that one, but I don't have the time to break it down some more. I still have some face looking a little bit uncertain. But it's going to be an amendment, friends. It won't be a cheat. It won't be a get rid of. The First Amendment says Congress must make no law respecting a religion. No law. But what if you make a law that's supposed to affect everybody? And you have a few minorities, what are the fringe elements? The terrorists, the enemy combatants.
Oh, mercy.
You guys just got it a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
You guys just got it a while ago.
Like Israel.
You guys just got it a while ago. So, where are we? Is it possible for us to have a religious amendment to our Constitution? Yes, look at the Supreme Court. We have 1 Catholic, 2 Catholic, 3 Catholic, 4 Catholic, 5 Catholic, and an Episcopalian who was raised as a Catholic. And the rest are Jews. So out of 9, we have a majority being Catholic. So the issue recently about this man, Brett Kavanaugh, wasn't about whether or not he was molesting young women. That was rubbish. The issue was that the man is a Catholic. And we missed the point. We arguing about, oh, I love to drink beer. Rubbish, rubbish. Rubbish, that wasn't about drinking beer. The issue was they had to get the man on why? Because the man's a what? A Catholic. So they wanted to solidify the majority, friends. That was the real issue. Issue was not whether the man would drink beer or not or molest women. That wasn't the issue, friends. Why they fought and pushed for him was for what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Call him a 6th one. He was a 6th quote-unquote Catholic on the Supreme Court of 9. That was the issue. And we're talking all this rubbish and missing the point. Because we're not looking through the lens of prophecy.
Amen.
We're looking through natural eyes. And the stones are even having clearer vision than we have. So, when our nation shall abjure the principles of its government to enact a Sunday law. This is going to be the principle of the government. When we discuss those, remember we discussed all those principles, those 7 principles? And in those principles, one of them was embedding the whole issue that the people have the power and the people are protected by certain rights, even the bill of the first rights. That's the last one to be abjured. Sunday law is a mark of the authority. Catholic Record of London, September 1st, 1923. And many will be martyrs for Christ's sake in standing defense of the truth. So friends, here we see. National Sunday law was passed by Emperor Constantine then the persecution of 7 days Sabbath keeping Christians. Apostate Protestantism agitated the party of a natural son-in-law through religious amendment to the Constitution, and what's going to follow? Persecution of 7-day Adventist Christians. And then lastly, friends, the fall and absorption of the USA Empire. This country must fall.
Yes.
National apostasy leads to national ruin. When our nation, in its legislative councils, shall enact laws enforcing Sunday observance and bringing oppressive power to bear against those who keep the 7-day Sabbath, the law of God will, to all intents and purposes, be made void in our land. And national apostasy will be followed by national 7 Bible Coventry, 977. And we saw that when the Sun Law was passed by Constantine, many years later, what happened? The Roman Republic, Roman Empire, what? Fell. And was absorbed into what? 10 nations that rose. So here it is, friends. The fall of the US Empire. Absorption of the US Empire as part of the North American Union, one of the 10 kingdoms of the New World Order, the political beast in Revelation 17. And then, as we saw, as the Roman Empire fell, who rose up? The papacy. The papacy, the religious war, rise to absolute power. The parallels are precise. 476 AD, we're talking about Rome now, commences the fall of the Roman Empire. Revelation 8 and 9 give us a long discourse on that. Roman Empire absorbed into the 10 kingdoms of Daniel 7:7. The papacy rose to absolute power. So the papacy rose up a little horn amongst these 10 and plucked up what? 3 horns in the process. The Herodites, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths. When the United States Empire, which we are in now, falls, the papacy is going to rise. And she's going to be the political war that rises the religious. She's going to be the religious war that rises the political beast in Revelation chapter 17. And that's what we're going to study next week. We're going to study next week, friends, what this world is going to look like when this US Empire fully falls and this religious war gets on the political beast in Revelation chapter 17. As a new world order is established. So, I don't have time to review the comparison. Here's a comparison. We did it before. Rise of the Republic, Roman Republic, rise of the US Republic. Tripartite government. War and terror, as was seen with Pompey getting immense power when there was his terrorist attack on the port of Ostia. Immense power started to be given to these presidents, becoming imperial presidents when September 11 occurred, and we saw with there that the passage of 2 important laws, the Military Commissions Act and the Patriot Act, which are similar to the Lex Gabinia and the Lex Vanilla. Then we saw the fall of the Republic. Julius Caesar marched across the Rubicon. Not supposed to do that, Julius Caesar. We see here President Trump establishing NORTCOM, and we see that the police force became militarized. In essence, crossing the Rubicon. So what we have for? We have a fall of the Republic here. And what rose up? As the time of the Roman system, we saw that what? The Roman Empire rose with Emperor Augustus as the first Roman emperor. And we have seen the US side a series of succession of imperial presidents. And then we see here the church-state union, where the Edict of Milan was passed, and the church were encouraged to what? Become incorporated. We see here both President Bush, President Trump, and President Bush, President Obama, and President Trump courting the evangelicals, invited them to be what? Incorporated, a church-state system, and then Trump says what? Let me do it now. I'm going to flip it to what? From a state church system to what? Church-state system. The national apostasy under Emperor Constantine with the passage of the son-in-law result in what? The 7-day Sabbath-keeping Christian being persecuted, apostate Protestantism agitating the passage of a change in the Constitution, and what's going to be followed, the Sunday law and the 7-day Adventist Christian being persecuted. Then the collapse of the empire with Rome commenced at 476 AD when the Roman Empire began to fall, and it was absorbed in the 10 kingdoms of Daniel 7:7, and the papacy rose to absolute power. The parallel is without question. Fall of the United States Empire, which we are in now, is going to be absorbed as one of the 10 world regions in the New World Order, as seen in Revelation chapter 17. And then we're going to see what? The religious war riding the political beast as the papacy rise against to ascendancy. Beautiful parallel. Friends, It remains to be seen whether or not this our republic will be admonished by their example and avoid their fate. Yet no doubt, friends, we are Rome. Yes, we are Rome. Let's deal with it. We are Rome. We're going the same way. The train has left the station, it's not coming back. We're no longer in a republic, we're in an empire. And we're under imperial presidents who are getting more and more power. And this election coming up, I promise you, it's going to be like an election you have never seen in life before. And as I said to you before, do we ever move a wartime president? Let's see. Next Sabbath, we will be discussing the political peace in the morning, and in the evening we will be discussing the religious war. May God bless and keep us. We're going to pray and close off right now.